Come all you sons of freedom, a chorus join with me. I'll sing a song of heroes and glorious liberty. Some lads condemned from England sail to Van Diemen's shore, their country, friends and parents, perhaps never to see more. When landed in this colony, to different masters went, for trifling offences to Hobart Town Jail were sent. A second sentence being incurred, we were ordered for to be sent to Macquarie Harbour, that place of tyranny. The hardships we'd to undergo are matters of record, but who believes the convict, or who regards his word? For starved and flogged and punished, deprived of all redress, the bush our only refuge, with death to end distress. Hundreds of us were shot down for daring to be free, numbers caught and banished to lifelong slavery. Brave Swallow, Watt and Davis were in our noble band, determined at our first slant to quit Van Diemen's Land. Marched down in chains and guarded, on the Cyprus brig conveyed, the topsails being hoisted, the anchor being weighed. The wind it blew south-southwest, and on we went straight away, till we went ourselves windbound in a gloomy Rechurch Bay. 'Twas August 1829, with 31 on board. Lieutenant Carew left the brig, and soon we passed the word. The doctor too was absent, the soldiers off their guard. A better opportunity could never have occurred. Confined within a dismal hole, we soon contrived a plan to capture now the Cyprus, or perish every man. But 13 turned faint-hearted and begged to go ashore, so 18 boys rushed daring and took the brigand's store. We first addressed the soldiers, "For liberty we crave. Give up your arms this instant, or the sea will be your grave. By tyranny we've been oppressed, by your colonial laws, but we'll bid adieu to slavery, or die in freedom's cause." We next drove off the skipper, who came to help his crew, then gave 3 cheers for liberty. 'Twas answered cheerly too. We brought the sailors from below and rowed them to the land, likewise the wife and children of Carew in command. Supplies of food and water we gave the vanquished crew, returning good for evil as we'd been taught to do. We mounted guard with watch and ward, then hauled the boat aboard. We elected William Swallow and obeyed our captain's word. The morn broke bright, the wind was fair, we headed for the sea, with 1 cheer more for those on shore and glorious liberty. For navigating smartly, Bill Swallow was the man, who laid a course out neatly to take us to Japan. Then sound your golden trumpets, play on your tuneful notes. The Cyprus brig is sailing, how proudly now she floats. May fortune help the noble lads and keep them ever free from gags and cats and chains and traps, a cruel tyranny. Holy Dan. Anonymous. It was in the Queensland drought, and over hill and dell, no grass, the water far apart, all dry and hot as hell. The wretched bullock teams drew up beside a waterhole. They struggled on through dust and drought 4 days to reach this goal. And though the water rendered forth a rank unholy stench, the bullocks and the bullockies drank deep their thirst to quench. 2 of the drivers cursed and swore as only drivers can. The other one, named Daniel, best known as Holy Dan, admonished them and said it was the Lord's all-wise decree, and if they'd only watch and wait, a change they'd quickly see. 'Twas strange that of Dan's bullocks not one had gone aloft, but this, he said, was due to prayer and supplication oft. At last one died, but Dan was calm, he hardly seemed to care. He knelt beside the bullock's corse and offered up a prayer. One bullock thou hast taken, Lord, and so it seemeth best. Thy will be done, but see my need, and spare to me the rest. A month went by. Dan's bullocks now were dying every day, but still on each occasion would the faithful fellow pray. Another thou hast taken, Lord, and so it seemeth best. Thy will be done, but see my need, and spare to me the rest. And still they camped beside the hole, and still it never rained, and still Dan's bullocks died and died, till only one remained. Then Dan broke down, good holy Dan, the man who never swore. He knelt beside the latest corpse, and here's the prayer he prore. That's 19 thou hast taken, Lord, and now you'll plainly see, you'd better take the bloody lot, one's no damn good to me. The other riders laughed so much they shook the sky around. The lightning flashed, the thunder roared, and holy Dan was drowned. Tis of a wild colonial boy, Jack Doolan was his name, of poor but honest parents who lived in Castlemaine. He was his father's only hope, his mother's pride and joy, and dearly did his parents love their wild colonial boy. So come, all my hearties, we'll roam the mountains high. Together we will plunder, together we will ride. We'll scour along the valleys and gallop over the plains, and scorn to live in slavery, bound down with iron chains. He was scarcely 16 years of age when he left his native home, and through Australia's sunny clime a bushranger did roam. He robbed those wealthy squatters, their stock he did destroy, and a terror to Australia was the wild colonial boy. In 61 this daring youth commenced his wild career. With courage all undaunted, no foeman did he fear. He stuck up the Beechworth mail coach, and he robbed Judge McAvoy, who, trembling cold, gave up his gold to the wild colonial boy. He bade the judge good morning and told him to beware, that he'd never rob a hearty chap who acted on the square, and never to rob a mother of her son and only joy, or else he might turn outlaw like the wild colonial boy. One day as he was riding the mountainside along, a-listening to the little birds, their pleasant laughing song, 3 mounted troopers rode along, Kelly, Davis and Fitzroy, with a warrant for the capture of the wild colonial boy. "Surrender now, Jack Doolan, you see we're 3-1. Surrender in the Queen's name, you daring highwayman." He pulled a pistol from his belt and waved the little toy. "I'll fight but not surrender," cried the wild colonial boy. He fired at Trooper Kelly and brought him to the ground, but in return from Davis received his mortal wound. All shattered through the jaws he lay, still firing at Fitzroy. And that's the way they captured him, the wild colonial boy. Bound down with iron chains. My name is poor Jack, and I've done my whack in sin and dissipation. As a gambler and thief I have been chief with all its degradation. But I hope I am one whose name will be John, now I've seen my sin and folly. For as gambler and thief has brought me to grief, in it there is nothing so jolly. Ah, the lad is a fool that practices the rule of trickery and deception, for it is sure to bring him an unpleasant sting by way of a fool's correction. The Tale of a Kangaroo. Anonymous. It wasn't on the Chinese coast nor yet upon Japan, but it happened on Sydney side, not far from Marianne, as told me by a splitter, which his name is Blathering Jim. A cove you can't expect to get a lot of truth from him. But there's no gammon in this yarn, for every word is true. How maidens fall wage deadly war with an old man kangaroo. Within a hut of she-oak slabs, all roofed with stringy bark, 4 Sydney native ladies sat, all game for any lark. Big Jane was there, Bondoggy Bill, the bullock driver's gal, with Mountain Mag from Blue Lookout and Parramatta Sal. And Julia, whose bushraiding brother Sam has come to grief, was cutting up and salting down a side of stolen beef, while Mountain Mag was plating of a cracker for the thong of Jack the boundary rider's whip that lives at Bogalong. Big Jenny dreamt that happy hours away upon the bunk after an evening party where no end of lush was drunk. And Parramatta Sal, she blowed a tidy cloud of smoke while coiling in her possum rug and thought about her bloke. Her father, who was absent with his gully-raking sons, was busy duffing cattle on the nearest squatters' runs. One of the good old colonists he was, who often bragged that though he'd been quite close to it, he'd never yet been scragged. 'Twas thus these maidens, all alone, were mustered in the hut, when on a sudden something bumped again the door full butt. Then Julia spoke, the artless maid brought up in nature's school. "Don't stand there humbugging all day! Come in, you bloody fool!" As no one answered to their call, on looking out they saw a booming kangaroo who'd run his head again the door. And being thus knocked out of time and anxious for a swim, was making for the water, so the girls just went after him. Now Julia's just the sort of girl to ride a bucking colt, or round a mob of cattle up if they're inclined to bolt. Ride on her brother's saddle, all astride, or on a push, do any mortal kind of work that's wanted in the bush. And so she grabbed a roping pole, and Maggie seized the adze, with all her ringmates streaming loose with, "Follow me, my lads!" The prop stick of a bullock dray was all that Jane could find, but Sarah waved a waddy that the X had left behind. On coming to close quarters with those formidable claws, the old man made for Sarah, but she hit him in the jaws, as Julie gave the beggar fits with that relentless arm that cleared the shanty ballroom near the Free Selectors Farm. Then closing, he charged Marguerite, but missed her, so she placed a stinger in the region of the middle of his waist, and gave him such a mauling over the face and eyes and ribs as fellows do each other in these rowdy fighting cribs. The boomer sought for vengeance and grabbed Jenny by the skirt, but luckily it gave, and so the lady wasn't hurt, though it must be confessed that she was terribly in dread, until the ladies rallied round and knocked him on the head. Thus old men often come to grief whenever they chance to stray among the rocky gullies where the ladies stop the way, because the girls are just as smart to bail up kangaroos as their parents are to travellers with anything to lose.